Hello and welcome, it's Chris here. This is part 404 where my friend Stuart Lynch will show you how to create an app on multiple platforms. If you've missed the previous parts, don't worry, there's a playlist right over there that you can check out. And if you do enjoy these lessons, do check out Stuart's YouTube channel as well. Alright, let's dive in.
Hi, my name's Stuart Lynch, and in this video we're going to be extending our Dad Jokes application once again. Currently we have a Mac OS target for the menu bar version, an iOS target for the iPhone iPad version, and a widget for the iPhone and iPad. In this video we're going to be adding another new target to our app. We're going to create a WatchKit app and a WatchKit extension so that we can have our Dad Jokes application on our Apple Watch. We'll finish up by adding in several complications so that our users will be able to launch the app from their watch face. I highly recommend that you watch the first 3 videos of this series, as each one builds on the other and depends on the previous one. If you've completed the WidgetKit version, then you can continue on from there. Or you can use a completed version of that 3rd video and you can download that from the link in the description. Before I start coding, I'd like to start a new branch. So from that widget branch, choose New Branch from Widget and name it WatchKit. We have all of the content that we need to share between our existing targets in this shared folder at the top. So before I create a new target for our watch app, let me first collapse those other targets. From the File menu now, choose File, New Target. Select WatchOS and then scroll down to the Application section. We can create a watch app for iOS app, or we can create a standalone watch app. There's no need for us to couple it with the iOS app, so we'll create the standalone app, which means it can be installed independently. You'll be able to delete your app from your iPhone and it'll still be on your watch. Call the app Dad Jokes WatchKit. We won't be sending notifications, so make sure you uncheck the Include Notification scene. Click on Finish and make sure that you activate it to make it the current target. You'll see that you have added not one but 2 different target groupings. The first one is the WatchKit app itself, and the second one is the WatchKit extension. We'll be doing most of our work in the extension, but when we run the app, we want to make sure that we select the WatchKit app target. The Assets folder in the app target is where the watch icon is located. Right now it's empty, but I provided some assets for this tutorial, and you can download them from the link provided. Delete the app icon, and then drag in the one from the WatchKit Assets folder. Build the app so that it'll compile the assets. Choose the WatchKit app target now, along with one of the Apple Watch simulators. I have one paired here to the iPhone 13. It's the 45mm one. When I run it, you see that new icon spinning up as the application launches, and it presents Hello World. Return to the home screen. If you're not seeing the watch frame, I suggest that you choose Show Device Bezels from the window menu. Then tap on the crown, and you'll see the app icon in the gallery. Long press on the gallery window and choose List View. You'll see the name of our app, and it's not really great, so let's fix that now. Select the app target for the watch, and change the display name to be just Dad Jokes. Tap out of that field to have it registered, and then run once more. Tap on the crown now, and you'll see that new name displayed in the list. As with all targets, the app has to start somewhere, and that's the file marked with the app main designation. As before, I'm going to rename this file to something that I can quickly find. So I'm going to call it WatchKit Entry and move it up to the top of the folder. The app entry presents the content view, as you can see, and it's just Swift UI. Let's refactor it by naming it WatchOS Joke View, making sure that all instances of the content view are replaced. Perfect. Time to start coding. Before we start coding our UI, we'll need to access some of those classes and assets that we used on our other targets. So open the shared folder and add the WatchKit extension to the target membership for all of the files in the shared folder except for the joke view. The joke view is only used for the Mac and iOS apps. Remember, we had to redesign our own UI for the widget, so we'll do the same thing here for the watch. Make sure that you also include the image asset. While you're doing this, make sure you choose the extension and not the app. Remember, we're coding in the extension target. Let's set things up similar to how we set up the joke view for the Mac app. We need to have a state property for the joke string to toggle the displaying of the progress view and the stored property in app storage, so we can keep track of the joke type. So we can copy those from the joke view and paste them into our view. We'll also need a function to fetch the joke from the API. So let's copy that function from here too. But since we already have our joke type here as a property, I can remove it as an argument for our getJoke function and just change the URL to the app storage version. I guess I could have done that in the first ones too. If we're fetching the joke, we just want to display a progress view. Else, let's set up a VStack with an alignment of leading that will contain really just two elements. One will be the joke, and the other is going to be a refresh button that will make a new call to the API. The first element then is a text view showing the joke string. And in the case where it's really long, we'll set a minimum scale factor of 0.5 to reduce the size. Next, we'll add a spacer. And at the bottom of the VStack, we'll create an HStack. Add a spacer so that we can add a button to the trailing edge. Now, this button will have an image using the system name GoForward. And then we can set a frame width of 40. For the action then, we'll create an asynchronous task unit of work and await the fetching of a joke by calling the getJoke function. Let's add some horizontal padding to this VStack and then test it on the canvas by tapping the refresh button. When we preview initially, it says no joke available. But when we tap on the refresh button, the progress spinner shows until a new joke is fetched and displayed. Next now, I want to add a background image of the dad, but I want it to be faded so that we can still read the joke text. So embed the entire if-else clause, including the padding, in a ZStack. And then as the second element in the ZStack, create an image using that shared Stuart Lynch image. Make it resizable, but set the opacity to 0.3. And then on that ZStack, add a task modifier so that when the view loads, it will automatically await the arrival of a joke. If we quickly go back and check the entry point, you'll see that the WatchKit joke view is embedded inside a navigation view. And this is great because we can use that to display a navigation title without having to embed our joke view inside a navigation view. So return to the joke view and add a new state property called navigation title as a string and initialize it as an empty string. Then, in the getJoke function, we can fetch the joke and grab that joke type from the JSON. And then we'll remove the colon and that extra space that we found at the end by dropping the last two characters. Looks like I have to enclose this as a string. Finally, then we can add a navigation title modifier to the Z-stack, and that's the navigation title using that string navigation title. Currently, we're always just retrieving a dad joke, and I want our users to be able to make that choice. So to do that, I'm first going to create a new SwiftUI view and call it Type Selection View. We'll need the App Store's joke type value, and that is of type joke type. And as always, we set that default to dad joke in case it hadn't already been set. Now I'm going to replace the body with a list. And then I'll use a for each loop to create a list of buttons from our joke type enum. And remember that it's case iterable, so we can use self as the ID and create an item as the iterator. Within the list then, we'll create a button that uses a text label, and that will be the item's raw value. And then the action will set that joke type property to the item value. Let's add some horizontal padding. And then we can display what the current choice is by changing the tint color of the list item, and do that by comparing it to the current iterated item to the selected one. So if it's equal, we'll set the tint to red. And if not, I'm going to use an RGB initializer where all values are 0.9 and set the opacity to 0.3. And then I'll add some padding to the list. And this view too will be in the navigation stack, so we can set a navigation title to say joke types. So how are we going to get to this view? Well, that's easy with SwiftUI. I am going to first embed both of these views in a tab view and allow the user to switch between them. So switch back to the app entry point and then embed the WatchKit joke view within a tab view, and then add the type selection view in as the second view. If I run this now, we can swipe between the two views and select a different joke type. But we get this error here at our entry point. And to be honest, I'm not sure why, but I found out how to resolve the issue. Create a new SwiftUI view and call it App Tab View. And here's the key. Add a private state property called SelectedTab and initialize it as 0. Replace the body with a tab view that has the selection as an argument. In the body of the tab view, we can create our two views, but we can also add a tag for each of the two views. So 0 for the first and 1 for the second. If I return to our entry point now, we can set this new view as our entry point. Let's run now and see if the error goes away. It looks like it does. And we can swipe and change our joke types. That purple warning you see in the navigation bar up here goes nowhere, and if you tap on it, you see that. If you relaunch the code, it will be removed. We fixed that problem. Now we have our app completed. Rather than getting the user to go to the app gallery, however, to select the app, I'd like to provide a way for the user to access that app directly from the watch face. And this can be done by way of a complication. Complications are those little icons on the watch face that often show some timely, relevant information about the app, like you do with the weather. In our case, however, we're not going to be displaying any information. Rather, we're simply going to have a recognizable icon that, when it's tapped, will launch the app. You can see from the Apple Watch Human Interface Guidelines page that there are many different types of complications, and each of the watch faces have a different selection. We're going to focus on only those watch faces that'll display an image, like this circular small complication, and this modular small. Both of these use a PNG image, but only the alpha channel of that image is used. The other complications, like the graphic corner one, will display a full color image, as will this graphic circular. So we're going to need to do three things. We'll need to add some images for these two types of complications. We'll need to specify which of the complications we want to support. And then finally, since we see that each of the complication types has a number of different display types, and these are known as templates, we'll need to specify which template that particular complication family will use. I found it difficult to find out which watch faces actually support which different complications. Fortunately, Brian May on his website, I'll leave a link in the description, has done that for us, so you can see that in the link provided. So first, let's add those image assets. Drag them into the Assets folder of the WatchKit extension. And then, in the inspector, with them both selected, change the scale to a single scale, because they're vector images. Select the one-piece image and specify that it render as a template. Now you'll understand why I chose these peculiar names in just a minute. When we created our app extension, it provided us with a complication controller. And you can see here that it's loaded with tons of boilerplate code. And a lot of this code has to do with presenting timely information on the complication. As I mentioned, we will not be doing that. We just want to use the complication as a launcher. So what I'm going to do is remove all of this code and start from scratch. This generates a non-conformance error, and we can allow Xcode to generate the protocol stubs for us like this. But I'm not going to even use these two functions. I'm going to use asynchronous versions of these functions instead. Remember when we created the intent handler for the widget? It had two versions. Unfortunately, Xcode doesn't do that for us here, but we can create them anyway. And there are actually three required functions. The first is the complication descriptors, which returns an array of information about the complications that we want to offer. The second will display a sample template that will be used by the user when they long press to pick the complication. This is basically the same thing that's going to be placed on the watch face, and that's done in the third function, which is the current timeline entry. This is sounding an awful lot like a widget provider, doesn't it? We're going to use the same descriptor for all of our complications. So we'll return an array that's going to be a single item, and that's a CLK complication descriptor, a clock kit complication descriptor. For the identifier, we're just going to use our WatchKit bundle ID, com.createXSol in my case, .dadjokes. The display name for all of our complications is just going to be dadjokes. And the supported families is the array containing all of the different complication types that you want to support. And for me, I'm just going to support circular small, modular small, utilitarian small, graphic corner, graphic circular, and graphic extra large. All of these will allow me to place a single image icon as the complication. I'm not going to use any text or display any information from the app. So both the localized sample template and the current timeline entry will need to have access to those two images. So let me create two properties for these, and then I'll use a guard check to make sure that they exist. Otherwise, I'll return nil. So if you made a typo, you'll know right away. So for the full color image, we want a UI image named full color image. For the one-piece image, we'll want a UI image of that name. Else, we'll just return nil, as I said. So let's copy and paste that into the third function as well. Now we need to create a template for each of our families that we support. So I'm going to use a switch statement, and then I'm going to use some fancy Xcode copy-paste to edit and copy all of our types and turn them into cases. To be inclusive then, the default will be the remainder, and we'll return nil because we're not supporting those ones that we haven't named. For each one then, we need to create a template. And that's a ClockKit complication template, a CLK complication template. So let me just copy that to my clipboard, and then we can pick from autocomplete the template that we want to use for each one of our complication types. For the circular small, we'll want a simple image. And it requires an image provider, which is a ClockKit image provider. If we use the initializer on this type, we see that it requires a one-piece image. And that's why I called our image that name. So let's use that, and then we return the template. This process is going to be the same for every one of these families. So let me just quickly go through these. Modular small uses the modular small simple image template. And that uses another one-piece image. Utilitarian small uses the utilitarian small square with that same one-piece image. The graphic corner uses the graphic corner circular image, but this time the initializer shows us it uses a full color image. And we have one of those. Graphic circular uses the circular image with a full color image. And finally, the graphic extra large uses the extra large circular image with a full color image as well. Now, remember that I said our complication on the watch face is basically the same thing as the template? The timeline will never change, so let's copy the template that we created and paste them into the body of the current timeline entry function. It breaks because it doesn't return a template. It returns what's known as a complication timeline entry. We can create one then that's the construction of a date, which is the current date, and the template, which is what we just have. And then I can just copy this initializer and use it for every one. We're done. Our app is complete, and it's time to test. To test, make sure that you select the WatchKit app and run it. Once it's run, exit to the home screen and then long press, and we see that our default watch is the meridian. And we can edit to choose a complication. Swipe right twice to get the complication screen, and pick one to choose from the available app templates. Here's Dad Joke. When we tap on it, our image, it's a full image. It's not a template, but it looks pale. And that's because it's not being displayed in color. If you swipe back one screen, you can choose the full color option, and then you'll see our icon now in full color. Back now at the watch face, we can tap on this and it launches our app. Let's add one more watch face. Exit to the home screen and then long press again and swipe right to add a watch face. Let's add a chronograph. Do the same 2 swipes and pick a complication to change or add, like this one in the bottom right. This uses the template icon, that one-piece version. I know this icon doesn't look great, but I never did claim to be a graphic artist. This was the biggest struggle I had in creating this video, was creating this image. Now I'll leave it up to you to try out a variety of different watch faces in different positions, like I'm showing you here as I speed through this process. Play around with color settings as well to see what the difference makes. You can even add the same complication in 2 different locations on the watch face. You can never have too many dad jokes, I guess. Well, this series has been a lot of fun to create, and in fact, I'm going to be publishing a free app on the App Store that uses a variation of this that I'm going to call Dad Knows. It'll offer you not only a selection of dad jokes, but also a vocabulary builder or a selection from a variety of inspirational sayings. You can watch for that in the App Store later this year. As always, it's been a pleasure being able to contribute here, and many thanks to Chris for giving me that opportunity. And thank you for watching.